everyone. Welcome to the show. This is going to be really, really fun. I've got clairvoyant extraordinaire and healer on, Debbie Anderson. Hello, Debbie.
Hi.
So what's really going to be fun about this show is that I'm doing it a little bit differently today. Typically, this is just for the podcast. If you're listening on the podcast today, make sure that you also go over to the YouTube channel. I wanted Debbie to come on and do this via Zoom today because we're going to be talking about her cards here in a minute that she put together. I've got the vibrational energy oracle cards, and I just thought it would be a lot better than, a lot of times when I'm doing the podcast, I'm trying to explain and do the visuals, and I'm like, I should just do video too. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, make sure you also go over to the YouTube channel so that you can see what we're talking about today. Kind of getting a 2-for-1 so that you can listen in your car, but you can also go back to YouTube and see the actual things that we're talking about. Before we dive into the amazing cards, we're going to be talking about one of the decks today. She actually has numerous ones, but I wanted to back up just a little bit, Debbie, because you're clairvoyant, and I'd really like you to explain to the audience what that is, what that means, and when did that start for you?
Thank you, Amanda. Well, being clairvoyant, some people are like clairsentient, where they just smell something, or clairaudient, where they just hear something. And I always believe that clairvoyant covers all of them. So I see, feel, sense, hear, and sometimes taste as well. So it's all the senses mixed in together, and they don't all come like one reading or one information it'll all be clairsentient or it'll be clairaudient. It'll be a mix of that. So I'll get pictograms and all of that kind of stuff. And as you say, it is backing up. I started seeing and sensing spirit when I was 4 years of age. And at that time, there was a traumatic experience going on in my life. My parents were separating, and eventually they went on to divorce. And my brothers and I were with my mother, went off to my grandparents and lived there for a while. And it was during that time there that was my first experience with spirit. And sadly, it wasn't the most, woohoo, this is fantastic, because I was 4 years of age and I was in an environment there back in the early 60s where these kind of things were not discussed openly. So I'm up in bed, as children did in those days, very early. And my grandparents were definitely from an era children were seen and not heard. So that was something, being in our grandparents' house, we had to learn to adapt to. Rambunctious 4-year-olds and 2-year-olds running around is something a little too much sometimes for older people. So anyway, I was in bed, fast asleep, and I woke up to see these little ethereal bodies, which I now know to be spirit, descending out of the ceiling in my grandmother's bedroom onto the end of her bed. In those days, they had bedboards and headboards on the bed, and sitting there and just smiling at me. Well, of course, I didn't understand what it was. So, of course, as small children do when we see something that doesn't seem right to us, I screamed, I cried, and my mum came up and she said, "Oh, come on, it's okay. You're just having a bad dream. Go back to sleep." And of course, this happened a few times, and I think spirit were going, okay, we're scaring the bejeebers out of this kid, so maybe we should just back off and do this in a different way, and which they did. So as a younger child, I would say those profound things to people that I had no idea or knowledge about. And, today we call them precocious children, those ones that come up and say something very profound, and we sort of step back and go, this child's 4. How do they know all this kind of thing? So I always say to people nowadays, listen, you could actually learn something. So again, it continued through my childhood until my teenage years, when it was one of those, oh my goodness, I suppose I've got to close down again. I was one of those teenagers that saw spirit quite a bit, and I would share this with other people. And I was on the school bus in England, or on a bus coming home from school in England, and I leapt up and shouted to everybody on the top floor of the double-decker bus, "Look, there's Jesus," which wasn't quite received in the way that I thought. It was absolutely beautiful, because this man just was standing there looking at me, and he held his hands out like this and just smiled. And I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody else, you need to see this. And of course, people sort of backed away on the bus, and my mother obviously heard about it, and she took me to see a psychiatrist.
Oh God.
And sadly, in those days in the UK, especially, and I'm not sure in Northern America, but in the UK, you would have been placed into an asylum. You know, I always say, given that lovely little white coat that hugs you, and then locked up in a padded room. So at that point, I said it was all lies. I was just doing it to get attention, as teenagers do. And spirit sort of closed down. It was like the secret society at that point. You know, I would just have these little conversations with them, and I wouldn't share anything with anybody because I was scared that this was going to erupt again and I would be in deep caca. So it was in my early 20s that really I'd been playing with tarot decks for all, you know, I think for the infinity of being given one. And the tarot deck that I was given was Rider-Waite, which to this day is my go-to tarot deck. And I know there's thousands of beautiful decks out there, but that's, I suppose, the one I resonated so much with back in my early 20s that I would still use that today if I so chose to. But I started doing readings for people, and I thought, well, I need to learn how to do this properly. So I went on this workshop, this course. And while I was there, what happened was at the point when we were doing readings for each other, I was hearing from the instructor, you're not doing this properly. How are you getting this information from these cards? And afterwards, hearing from the person opposite, you were spot on. So I knew I was only using the cards as a tool or a blankie or just an example of something to do. And I was actually still giving messages to people from spirit. And then I was blessed to be able to go to the Arthur Findlay College of Metaphysics, as it was known in those days, in Essex, in Stansted, Essex, in England. And it was in those days like Hogwarts for all those Harry Potter fans out there.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
It was joyous. And being amongst other people of like mind it was in those days, it was just mediumship and healing that they taught there. And now they have a glorious array of other metaphysical sciences that they offer. But at that time, it was just that. And it was then that I realized this is okay. Everybody here does this. So all of a sudden it was that sort of, oh, you know, I'm not as strange, you know, I'm not the oddball here. And we're very blessed in our society now because, of course, those were in the days before internet where we couldn't access any information. We couldn't hear wonderful podcasts like this or get to see any videos with explanations on spirit and that kind of thing. So we were literally in the dark ages. So we would read a book and go on a workshop or go on a course. And that was the only way we connected with each other, mailing letters and that kind of thing. So that's sort of a little potted story of my journey. And of course, it's not being that I woke up one day and I became a clairvoyant medium. I'm still working on that job. I really am, and trying to improve my skills and get better and be able to give more conclusive messages to people when they come to me. But the one thing about it was I was able to, I suppose, shadow it in the dark when I was working in corporate world and still be able to do my readings at evenings, weekends and vacation and that kind of thing, until eventually it got to you need to do this full time. So, and I know there's many people out there, it's like, when do I take that step over from balancing the two? And I always say, you know, do it before spirit push and shove you, and then you end up, I always say, like Guido when the boys come in and take you out. And mine actually was, I was in corporate world working away, and all of a sudden one day I'm in the I was a marketing assistant to a CEO, and all of a sudden a box came crashing down, hit me on the back of the neck, crumpled me into literally concertinaed me in this very small space, and I had to be dragged out by my feet. How elegant is that? So at that point it was like, okay, you're being taken away from the situation here. You need to be focusing just on your clairvoyant work. But obviously I had to heal, and while I was healing it took longer than I thought, and I thought, okay, now my funds are drained, I need to go back to work. You know, we get in that little treadmill, and then I got rear-ended.
Oh God.
So you know, don't be like me and do it the hard way. I always say that I tend to do it the kicking and screaming way. I never do anything graciously. When I'm on that roller coaster ride, I'm really on the roller coaster ride. So if you're getting signs from spirit, stepping into the work, your healing work or your spiritual work full time, then make it happen. Because I'm not saying that they want to harm you, but they'll make sure that you get the opportunity to do this. And because I had the time, that's when I started writing the deck. Couldn't do anything else. I could only heal. And for me, that was not something that I went into graciously. I'm an active person. I like to be on the go all the time. So to sit there and not, in my mind, do anything physical was a real struggle for me. So Spirit started giving this information for the Oracle deck. So yeah, don't do it kicking and screaming, folks. Do it nice
So is
and
that
gently.
I mean, I think that's a great question, in that I think a lot of people, I'm kind of experiencing this myself right now, where I'm kind of going through a renaissance, and I'm, I've started doing real estate, and I'm ready to take my skill set that I have, but apply it in a new way. And I feel like I was kind of guided in that way to do that. I feel like in a lot of ways I'm fairly in tune, and I do things and I don't really know why I'm doing them. But I have seen that with other people where
Absolutely.
like they're getting bonked on the head over and over and over again,
Yeah.
and they're not taking the messages. So
Yeah.
how do you, is there, like, I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm just having a shitty day.
Yeah,
And it's
no.
like they're not putting the pieces together to know, oh, maybe I should turn around, or maybe I should be doing something different.
Well, I do believe that Spirit sends us messages all the time. Whether you believe in Spirit in the way that we're talking about this, or whether you believe in another consciousness, we do have guardian angels that are watching over us, and they don't let harm come to us. Maybe we have a car accident, maybe we have a box fall on the back of our head, maybe we break a leg or whatever it is. But usually when we stop after the fact, sadly, and reflect back, we've been given those signs, those warnings, that indications: change this, make something different, do something different. It's a bit like when we just come out of a relationship. I'll give that as an example. We've come out of a relationship and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to do this again. And then we find somebody a little while down the road, and then we start getting into that relationship. And sometimes we hear that, no. And of course we're going, but yeah, it's yeah.
You don't know.
No. And then we go through the course of time, and sometimes that no that we heard then comes to fruition. So, we don't want to keep having to do that. But when we're being sent these direct indicators from Spirit, listen. Like, if I talk about some of the things where people have not gone into work that day, or not got on a plane, they just felt, no, I don't want to get on this flight, or I don't want to go on. And then something terrible's happened. We could go back to the Twin Towers, and many of the stories there of where people did not go into work that day. They couldn't define why, but they were either being held up, or the bus was late, or the train was late, or they couldn't find their keys and things like that. So those are what I call really strong indicators. And this happened to me many, many years ago. I was in corporate world in England, driving to work, and or having to drive to work. And that morning I got up and I said to my husband, okay, where's my car keys? We only had a small apartment. It wasn't difficult to lose car keys. We had one set of car keys, that was it. We only had one car, so we only needed one set. And he said, well, you had them last, you came in. I said, yeah, well, I put them in the tray. And he said, well, then they must still be there. So we pulled the apartment to pieces. I emptied my purse out. I went through, we couldn't find it. And I'm looking at the clock and I'm going to be late. I know now I'm going to be late. And so I start formulating all these excuses in my head. The cat got sick, or, the bus came in front of me, or the dog ate my homework, kind of thing. And eventually they were exactly where we had looked initially. So by that time, oh, you've got to be kidding me. And so I rushed out of the door in an absolute panic, jumped into my car, then I hit traffic. I'm like, oh, come on, really? This is what you're doing? And I'm throwing my hands up to Spirit like, come on, at least give me a break here. Well, I was stuck in that traffic for absolutely ages. And then on the radio, I heard that there had been an accident, a train accident, had hit a vehicle. Now, in England, we have those drop-down bars, and I think in lots of places in North America.
Yeah.
So this was one of those situations. The barriers didn't come down. The car had gone through and been hit by the train. Now, I cannot say for sure that was my vehicle, but when I worked out the timing afterwards, when I saw it in the newspaper, the time of the accident, I would have been in and around that area at that time. So sitting in the car at that moment, I thanked Spirit for keeping me away, for making me late, not finding my keys and all of those things, and had this immense sort of calmness just come over me. And so those kind of messages, when we get them very precise like that, I always say thank Spirit to start with for keeping me out of harm's way, and you know, using what they had to do to keep me from getting in the car and racing off to work in my usual way that I would have done. So yeah, when we get those times when we like, why am I driving this direction to get to where I usually go, and I feel like it's going all around the houses, then we hear either there was a hold up or an accident, or we arrive and then there's somebody we met there that we wouldn't have usually met. I love the series God Friended Me. Well, I don't, hopefully I'm okay to say that, because those are the kind of things that happen in that we get those defined connections where Spirit step in and just guide us in the direction where we need to be at that particular time.
And we just need to really learn to trust that, right? I mean,
absolutely. Trust being the operative word there. And I always say to people, it's not something I can put on a piece of paper, hand it to you, and you can insert into your program and make it happen. We just have to go on it. You know, men have gut feeling, women have intuition, or a mix of the two. And we truly have to, if we're getting these continuous indicators, and I was obviously getting them, I just wasn't listening,
which I think a lot of us do. If you can put your other earbud in, I think your microphone was in the, your microphone's in that one.
Thank you.
So, I mean, I think that it's also good to point out that you said that you were in corporate before you went into this full time. That was something I was going to ask you, because I have a lot of listeners that listen to this show that are healers, and this is what they really want to be doing. They want to be doing Reiki full time, or utilizing their gifts full time, or, you know, whatever the healing modality is that they have. And they're really afraid to take that leap. Yeah. And I hear this a lot where, like, once you trust and make that leap, it's like the pad is provided for you.
Absolutely.
And here you were kind of conked on the head, forced to be, you know, convalescing, and you created this deck, which is great, because I was going to ask you what inspired you to do this. And so it was kind of like a co-creation, so to speak, because it sounds like it wasn't really first on your list, but, you know, you were co-creating.
Well, it's one of those things, like anything. Sometimes we get into that groove of what we think we're supposed to do. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, something transcends upon us that changes that. And I always say that can be for the good, the bad, or the indifferent, really. It can just be there. And those are those divine moments. And of course, I didn't actually accept the creation of the Oracle deck in grace and ease and grace. You know, I was basically trying to talk Spirit out of using me. Get somebody else to do it, somebody that's done Oracle decks, somebody that knows this kind of stuff. Why me? And I get
Don't you love that we like to bargain with Spirit as if we have a choice in the matter?
Well, I get the sense that, you know, my guides and helpers, I can see them sort of doing like you would as a parent. Do I really have to work with this person? Really? What did I do wrong that I've got stuck with this one? Because, you know, I've always been a questioner. So they have dealt with that with me all my life. It's not like I go, oh yeah, okay, hands up, you know, give it up and I'm just going to do it kind of thing. I always question, because I am a skeptic. That's just something there. So eventually it's like, okay, we're not going to argue with her now. We're just going to give her the information, and she needs to write it down. She needs to get focused here. And that's what happened. So I gave in and just started writing. And that for me was, I was given, first of all, the names of the different cards. And as you know, there's 52 cards in this deck, which is unusually large for an oracle deck. Usually an oracle deck is between 40 and 46, I think. Some oracle decks are 52, but when I was getting the titles, and it was like, it's gone past 40, it's gone past 44, it's gone past 46, I'm going, okay, guys, do we need to stop sometime soon? And I just almost got like, shut up and listen. So,
again, don't try to bargain with them. So
absolutely.
you have actually a couple of different decks, and
Yes.
the one that I want to focus on today is your vibrational energy. So this is what it looks like for those that are watching the YouTube channel. And was this the first deck that you created?
Absolutely. And as I say, from my perspective, I hadn't a clue of what I needed to do. And I'm an indie publisher, so that means I went it alone. At the time, I was offered a contract by a not so well-known publishing house, and it didn't feel right. And I just kept on hearing from Spirit, do it, do it, do it. So my husband and I sat down and had that big conversation, as you do, of can we financially afford to do this, and what route should we go? And neither of us knowing how to create an oracle deck. You know, it's easy doing the words and connecting with somebody to do the images, but the rest of it is a journey in itself. And again, it was like Spirit going, okay, don't worry about all the small stuff, just it's gonna happen.
Yeah, we get so caught up in the logistics of everything.
Well, because we're human first, we are a spiritual energy, but we live in a 24-hour concentrated, and I always say dense world, and I don't mean like stupid, but I mean as in it's very heavy, what we feel, our emotions, and that's what we're here for, to experience the emotions. In Spirit, it's all love and light. They don't have to worry about, I've got 24 hours or 8 hours or an hour to do this. I got to rush to get this done. It's like, to them, an hour is like a nanosecond. There's no infinicy of we have to do it, and it has to be within the next 5 minutes, or, you know, I've got to eat, or all those kinds of things. So it's just beautiful that we have them to guide us in this. And I'm just looking at your beautiful cat that's come up behind you.
She has been literally, as you've been talking, she's been like going through my feet and yowling, and I've been trying to control her, but she's going to do what she wants.
It's lovely. She's just getting herself settled there. It's like, I'm going to be in the shot.
It's the fact that I'm talking to you and not her. So her calibration's off right now. Her circadian rhythms are all screwed up.
I love it. So
I'm surprised she's the only one in here right now. So
early days.
Yeah, like I said earlier, we're talking about the vibrational energy oracle card. And before we dive into this, I just want you to explain to us what exactly is a card deck, in case someone's listening to this on the podcast or watching this on the show. They may have never heard, they may have heard of tarot cards, but they may not have ever used them, play with them. They may not understand. What's the point? You know, what exactly is a card deck?
Right. So there are, as you say, there's oracle cards, there's tarot cards. Some people go with these angel cards. Well, angel cards can be an oracle deck. They can be a tarot deck. And of course, then we have affirmation cards and all of those wonderful divination tools that we can use to help us get answers. Now, the difference between an oracle and a tarot, because sadly, Hollywood has not been kind to tarot. It's given it a black name, and witches and bad demons and stuff like that, you know. And I always used to love it when I would see the Tower or the Death card in tarot, because it's like, yeah, something's coming to an end. That means something new is going to happen. Woohoo, bring it on. But, you know, it's that dun, 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 you know, that fear factor that comes up. So oracle cards are a little less scary in that respect, because each card is a standalone card. So it can be read in as a card that you pull, whereas a tarot deck, it's like a formula that happens within a spread, and the way the cards are laid out and that kind of thing. So oracle is a little less scary. And oracle comes from the word master, sharing. So it's sharing this information with us so that we can learn. So hopefully that's a little bit, it's a little less complicated to use. I always say you can pick up an oracle deck straight away, pull a card, and get the definition associated with that card without having to create a storyline with it.
And I agree. I think it is a little less scary. You know, like you mentioned the Tower card. Last year I did 3 different readings and I got the tarot and the death card in all 3. And it wasn't so much that I feared it, but I had that combination before when I went through my divorce,
Right.
and it was a very challenging time in my life. And so what I was doing is I was comparing it to the time before when I had that experience. And I thought, oh God, you know, that was more of I was reluctant to have to go through that. I'm older
Yeah.
now. I didn't want to
Yeah.
go through that again. And I think what was really brilliant about it is my life did get, you know, completely disheveled, and it, you know, it literally, I did go through a major, like the rug was pulled out from underneath me, a lot of change, a lot of like, oh shit.
Yes.
But because I was older, I was like, well, the sun's gonna still rise, the sun's gonna still
Yeah.
set, like, you
Yeah.
know, been here, done this, like it'll be fine.
On
But
reflection though, once you went through it, was it for the better?
oh, without a doubt, it was
Yeah.
better, and I'm much happier. And you know, and that's the thing too, is the first
Yes.
time when I got that
Yeah.
combination, I was too young, too naive to really understand that.
Right.
It was like I was on the cliff, and there was no other side. I was just
Yeah.
going to plummet to my death.
And of course, and sadly, death by association, you know, it's like people that go to the restaurant for the first time and they have a bad meal. Well, they've labeled that restaurant as a really bad restaurant. They won't go back and give it a second chance. I always say go back a
Yeah.
second time. If the second time it's still really bad, then okay, you've got an opinion there, but you can't always judge it on that first visit. You know, so with cards and things, when you're using them, just they're there.
And I
They're
think that's a great
indicators.
example. You know, I tend to go through a lot of death and rebirth. I'm a Scorpio, so it's a part of
Oh,
my
right.
sign. But what I really loved about these is I'm just going to show the audience some of them. I mean, I just think that, you know, the designs of them are very, very pretty. They're very well done. I think that what I'd like to do is, one of the questions I think that people would probably have is, there's a book. I don't know if anybody out there's like me. I don't read a damn thing. I just start
Me
playing with
neither.
stuff, and whatever
Good.
happens is but there's probably people that do read instructions. But what is the best way to utilize a card deck? Like, is there a wrong way and a right way to do this?
Not at all. You know, people come to me and say, should I tap my deck to get the energy in? It's whatever you feel. But one thing that I will say, when I teach people how to read this deck specifically, the first thing I say to them is take your cards out, put the book away. And you can see this absolute fear fill their faces. I'm like, no, I want you to tap into your intuition. That's what we're going to do in this workshop. And then afterwards, you can go back and you can check with the book. And I think the book for many is like the blankie. It's that, oh, okay, if I'm not sure. So, and I always say, first of all, you know, the biggest thing when you're doing any kind of reading for yourself is, what's the purpose of this? What do I want out of this? So we have a question, or we're asking for a direction, or we're wanting some answers to something. So I always say to people, take that moment to step into that in intention. Be there, be present. Don't just like, oh, okay, I'm going to grab the cards and da 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 da, I'm going to do it. Take a moment. Take the cards in your hands, hold them in whatever way that you feel that is the right way. Sit, take a few deep breaths to connect. And I always add the disclaimer here, if you're driving a vehicle, do not do that then. Find some, I know it's crazy, but so, you know, take a moment to let your busy thoughts disappear. So you
And
can.
is there a right way when you're really focusing on that question? You know, and that's another thing too, is there such a thing as too big or too small of a question? But as you're focusing on that question, is there a wrong and a right way to formulate a question?
See, some people like to, I always say, when I'm asking for something from spirit, regardless of whether I'm using a deck or whatever, if I'm asking for a question to be answered, I always say, I want X, dot, 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 or something to my highest good, or something better. And I'll give you a silly example here. I say to Spirit, I want a red Ferrari. Please give me a red Ferrari.
I want one too.
Aye. So anyway, Spirit look up in their shelf and they have a green Ferrari, but I've stipulated red. So Spirit come back and they say, well, not for the moment. You're not going to get that. Okay. So if I had said, I would like a red Ferrari or something to my highest good or something better, then maybe I'd have got the green Ferrari, or maybe the beat up pickup truck, or maybe something that I could only afford the insurance for. Maybe the Ferrari, I'd be too scared to take it out. I would be concerned that, you know, it gets scratched or damaged or something like that. So maybe that wasn't really what I wanted, but I thought it was what I wanted. So you see where I'm going here. Sometimes we think we know we want something, but in truth and honesty, we don't. We just at that moment with that particular thing that's happening in our lives. And if we reflect back on our life, and when, you know, when I was growing up, I wanted to be a wren or a policewoman. I was none of those things, but that was my focus then. And that's all I wanted to do. And as we look at our life and how we go through that and where we end up, there are no mistakes. There are no wrong turns. I always love the movie Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah.
It's quite an old movie because it actually shows here that she went out of one door and she went one direction, and then she went out of the same door going the other direction. It sort of parallels her life for a little while. But there are times when we're supposed to meet somebody, or we're going to a path is going to cross with a particular thing. Spirit makes sure that we are there, we get into that, we don't miss it. So, you know, going back to the cards, when you're asking a question, just focus on what you're hopeful to get as an answer. And if you don't know, if it's, you know, my life's in chaos at the moment, what can I do to change that? That's a pretty general question. That's okay. And maybe we're going to get the card, which is the F word. Maybe we're frustrated with our world. Maybe
the F word in my world is feng shui.
Okay, and of course it's so many different ways. The whole concept of the F word is reversing what you're feeling. So if you're feeling frustrated, fed up with something, or the one that we all know that's a very popular F word, which does get dropped, the bomb now and again, maybe we need to let that out and let something F come back in that's going to fulfill that, that's going to be in a positive way, and it's going to take us forward. So just take a moment, breathe, connect with the question. If you're not sure what it's going to be, you know, I just need some general direction, that's fine. If it's, is this guy the right guy for me?
And once you have your question and you have an idea of kind of what you're thinking about, is there any particular way that they should shuffle and like number of cards? Should it be one? Should it be three?
Again, it's all of the above. It is definitely
whatever they feel.
Absolutely. See, with connecting with the deck, there are no set rules of engagement. Everybody creates their own formula, if you like, that works for them. And I always say, especially if you've got a deck for the very first time, you know, take them out and play with them, shuffle them around, move them on the table. Because some people say, well, this deck's quite big. How do I shuffle it? And going, if you can't do it in the, what I call the poker player stance like this, then spread it out on the table. Do the kids shuffle, as I call it, the mix them up face down. You know, some people say, should I cut it once? Should I take the bottom card or the top card? This is where, when you're stepping into your intuition, whatever you're guided to, if you feel, okay, the bottom card's important to me at the moment, and on here it's snowflakes, which means I'm unique and I have different things that are going on. I'm not going to fit into everything that everybody else wants to fit into. So maybe that's what I need to hear at that particular moment. So again, if you want to put them into 4 piles or 2 piles, you want to tap your deck, or you want to, you know, hold it up to the gods and say a prayer, that is entirely up to you. Create your own formula. That's what I always say to people, but it is as easy as just pick up the cards and play with them. And the other thing is, if you're getting, you're shuffling your deck and a card flies out, or it drops on the floor, then that's the one you need to have. And I've got a couple that have just dropped on the floor here, and I'm not going to pop out of focus here, but those, maybe that's the decision. You've got 2 cards. They're the 2 cards you're supposed to look at.
I
If you
pulled
feel
one and I got the same one you did.
oh my gosh, that is too funny. So,
That one
and again,
is, for those who are
synchronicity.
watching, that's Snowflake, which is great. And then this is Release. But just give you guys a little bit
Yeah,
of what the beauty of them and how well they're breathed deeply,
yeah.
which is beautiful. Just to give you kind of an idea of what they look like. What's the best way? A lot of people I know, they really get in their head, and I understand. I used to be this way too.
Me too.
Just overthinking and over complicating
Yeah,
everything to the point to where they don't even do it because
yeah.
they get in their own way. When they do a card reading, let's say they decide that they want to think of a specific question. They now
Hmm.
know what they're going to ask, and they shuffle the deck. They decide to do 3 cards. Now they're going to overthink what the interpretation is. So
Right.
what's the best way when they get a card to not overthink the interpretation, and to kind of get in that flow state of, okay, what does this mean for me in reference to my question? How can I like lean into this, so to
Right.
speak?
Yes. And of course, that's connected with each person. If it's to do with the guy, is this the guy? And all of a sudden we see the F word come up, and like, oh, maybe this is not the guy, but I want it to be the guy. I want it to be the fantastic guy, the person I'm going to be with. Don't try and make the cards what they are not. They're just there as guidance. And usually when we've gone to the cards, it's we want guidance. We have a feeling or a sense or a concept of what we want, but we just need that little, I always call it the little rubber stamp going on there. And whether you've got the 3 cards out and you're starting to read the cards, I always say, first of all, look at the imagery. How does that fit into what your question that you've asked, or the direction you're asking? What does the words on the card mean? And then if you're feeling that you can't get any more than that, then go and look at the book. But I'm sure everybody, when they're looking at something, they go, yeah, that actually connects with me. It resonates with me, because I'm feeling at the moment that I'm on my own, like life's the beach. Maybe I'm feeling that I'm on my own, but we're not. We're there. And maybe we're in this situation where, there's another sentence, life's a B it begins with, but it's certainly not a beach. And maybe
Life's a
we're
bitch.
feeling that. Yeah, maybe we're feeling that way. So this is just a reminder that, yeah, maybe you're feeling that way, but there is somebody there with you. You are walking towards the light here. So maybe this is something you need to make the transition from. Each of the cards, when we pull them, when we pick them, they're chosen for us, as I always say, come to us with an answer. Sometimes we don't like the answer, and we just need to let it happen. If you don't want to accept that as being your answer, then go on the way you're already going.
Well, and I think that's, again, we tend to get into our own way. I was just looking at some of the cards and going through just some of the interpretations that are underneath them. And a lot of them, I think, are pretty self-explanatory.
Yes.
I think that some could, we could get in our own way.
Oh yeah.
Cellular collapse.
Yeah.
I could see where somebody may go, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Muse,
Yeah.
I think this could be great if you're writing a book or working on
Yes.
a creative project,
Right.
but you may not understand. This one, I think, may be something that maybe people have heard in a lot of religious sectors, but may not
Mm-hmm.
know what this means. So
Yes.
with something like this, if we've got a question and we get that,
Go
is
to the book.
yeah, okay, the book is the
Absolutely, go
best
to the book.
way.
Yeah, that when, as I say, when I teach it, I get people to connect with their intuition, and this is when we've sat in that intention to start with, to connect what we're wanting an answer to. So what we've what we have effectively done is said to spirit, help me. I'm going to use the cards, but help me here. I need some assistance with this. So they're tuned into us as we're tuned into them, and we're tuned into the cards. And then the cards start to come out. And I don't ever think that there's a wrong card that comes out. Maybe it's giving us okay, be cautionary with this. Maybe we do need to look after ourselves first, and we're trying to rush into something here because we really want it. But the truth being that maybe we need to sit and breathe. Maybe we need to have somebody else guide us, like in the muse, that we're being, somebody is in our life that is there to help us. I always think of the muse as like the Emperor card, that wiseness of somebody just guiding us there, that we trust, and that's it. And with that particular card, the door's closed, but you can see the light underneath it. So it's inviting us in, whether we want to go down that pathway or not. So we're guided there, and each of us, when we're doing this, will get our own interpretation. Maybe it's something that connects with us that's in our actual world. A person, you know, somebody. The triangle, yes. This is the law of three, like the triangle, the infinity. And if you look at that card there, there's so much infinity in it, that there's this nebulous in the background there that's happening. And it's just meaning, here's our world in this triangle, like we are in this little triangle, just being and connecting with the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, whatever you like to connect to in your belief system. So yeah, if you're not sure, then the book is there, and as you say, there's simple, concise answers in the book. So if we're looking
and
there,
several of them are quite you know, like new beginnings and shifted, and several of them are I would say self-explanatory. You know, some of them I think that people might have you know, but a lot of these, like quiet time, clean sweep, knowing, you know, I think like what you're saying, Debbie, is if you're doing this and really thinking about your question, and just kind of, you know, really connecting, even a card that I think might seem a little ominous, or you're not really sure what its meaning is, if you sit in it, I would think that something would come to you. This is a beautiful card.
Yeah. New beginnings is absolutely wonderful. Again, it's a bit like the death card, in the respect that something has to end, a bit like perfect storm, that something is coming to its fruition. It's coming to an end. You know, the perfect storm, as I always say, is, you know, you could be in the eye of the storm and it's absolute silence, it's absolute peace, and outside everything else is chaotic. And sometimes we need to step into that with our life. You know, I always, you know, when we're having an issue, a problem in our life, it's like we get caught up in the thick of it and we can't see our way out of it. And sometimes I wonder if it's just good to take that moment to close our eyes, take that breath, connect with spirit, connect with whatever we're needing to at that moment, to just find that solace. Because maybe it isn't something that's going to be sorted out right in this moment, but later on we know it is, because we trust in that.
And this was a question that I actually got on Facebook. There was a gal that asked, how often can she do a reading?
Well, I always say you have to be careful here, because you know, we can
get addicting.
Addictive, and what I call oracle abuse, or we can just abuse it. So we like, okay, I did the reading for myself today and asked a question. I didn't like the cards. I'm going to do it again tomorrow, and I'm going to do it again the next time. So, you know, and of course, I always say to people, if you keep getting the same answer, then you really at some point have to accept it.
Yeah.
Now, usually when we're using an oracle deck, you know, I would say to people, you can pull a card as a focus of the day. So you can just use it in what I call a generalized situation. We don't have to pull it to get an answer. You know, it's my focus today that I need to just be connected with what's happening in our world. Connected as I am here on this little human being on here, but I'm also spirit as well. So maybe I need to do that. So don't overdo it.
Yeah, I think you can definitely abuse it.
Absolutely. And, you know, I always say to people, if you have lots of questions, then okay, go through your lots of questions. But there has to be a time when you put the deck down, and as I always say, walk away from the deck.
Yeah, I think you've got to definitely be careful, because, you know, I think you put the nail on the head when you said a lot of people, they think they know what's best for them. And spirit up there is going, oh, Lord, honey, no, you don't. And, you know, I think that, you do want that relationship to work out because there's fear involved, or
of course,
you desperately want to get pregnant because of, and you have already played the scenario out in your head of what you think it should look like. And so you're not getting that answer, or you're not getting the direction that you really had hoped for. But yeah, I think you're right. I think you need to accept what is coming. One of the questions that I had, this is what I had written down before we started the show. As I was brushing my teeth, this is what came to me. And I was like, I want to ask this question. When we do, I've played with cards for the last 20 years or so. And one of the things that I've never really been certain about is timing. So when I ask a deck, whether it's tarot or oracle, a question, how do I know if this is happening tomorrow or 6 months from now? Is there a way of getting
that
a
is
little
always,
bit?
yeah, it's always one of those indefinitive answers, if you like. If I know that I'm going for that job interview and I'm saying, is this the job for me, and I'm getting a clear yes, then obviously we know that the timelining is to do with that particular job that we're going for, or if we're going for to get a house or something like that. There is no real way of getting a timeline into it unless you can ask another one. This is when I would bring a pendulum or something like that into it, because that's a yes no, and I could then ask, is this going to happen tomorrow? And then it has to be yes no answers and questions. So that's where I might pull my pendulum out in conjunction with my cards and say, okay, I need to know. And if you're getting a maybe, you're still getting exactly what the cards are telling you. This is a maybe. This could be happening, but we don't know when. And I think it's, again, because we are in that 24/7 world, that we hope that the answers are going to be there for us straight away. And I conclude, if you don't get the job and there was an indication that you should have got the job from the cards, maybe that was not the job.
Well, and you said a little bit earlier, I think something that is great to bring back around is that in the land of spirit, there's no time. Time doesn't exist. We experience it here, but in the land of spirit, 5 years for us of pure drudgery is like a blink to them.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that, that was one of my experiences. I kept getting the death in the tarot card last year. So I knew shit was going to get real. I knew there was going to be major upheaval, and I knew that things were going to change in a dramatic way. And they did. My whole life did a 180. If you had asked me a year prior, where would I be? I wouldn't have guessed this.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, the challenge was when I said yes to it. I'm like, all right, fine. I know I can't avoid this.
Yeah.
I know I signed up for this. I know I can't avoid this. So I'm just going to lean into it. I'm going to say yes. I know it's going to be hell, but I did it. And, it was much smoother because I had that attitude, and I was like, whatever, sun still sets, sun still rises.
Yeah.
But I think that I had a little bit, and I mentioned this on a show I did a couple of weeks ago with Marlene Cronin, that I felt like spirit was going to reward me. Like, oh, well, I said, I said yes to the shit show. So I'm going to totally be rewarded. And, a lot of the shit show has continued. And I'm like, really? Like, how long does this go on? And I have to keep reminding myself that spirit's just like, oh, well, it was a blink.
Okay,
it's been barely going on.
I'll share something that's actually happening at the moment. This, back in 2013, when I created the deck, so there was a lot of shifting and changes going on. And sadly, what I call the end of this year, and we're in November, near the end of November now, and we're in that crescendo of, I always call it the shift happening. The shift, shift or get off the pot, literally. And this is what we're being faced with, like, hang in there, hang in there, hang in there. And like myself and many other spirit workers and light workers are going, okay, but I can only hang on for so long.
Yeah. I feel like, we're like, I had a lot of energy at the start, and I'm like, I'm getting real worn out.
Yeah. All I can say is this year has been about injustice. and us coming to terms with injustice.
Which we have been.
Which we have been, if we look at our world and look at our own personal lives. And it's almost like not accepting it, but understanding that the resolution is coming.
Which is what 2020 is all about.
2020, but be aware, everyone. 2020 will start off with an explosive way and not something that we are wanting to invite in. We always think of January the 1st and making our wishes and our demands and our hopes and things. So if for some of you, it starts off and you're like, holy crap, this is not going to continue like this, hang in there just a little bit longer till about February, March time. Okay, this is just the last of the transition here.
I had an astrologer on to discuss this and to talk about January and Uranus being in Capricorn and just the explosive energy that's going to be going on, and just a major shift of, you know, something out of shock and awe and out of nowhere.
Yes.
And
so don't take it as the sky is falling. Just take it as, okay.
I think that in a lot of ways, you know, it kind of has to create change. We have to go through that to have true transformation. Because if it's like a bell ringing, nothing's going to get torn up. Nothing's going to change. It's going to be business as usual. So we have to have that explosive thing, just like the housing market back in 2008. It's like we had to have that happen to create major change in the way that we were doing business. So absolutely. I feel like it's necessary.
And, you know, back in August, I was invited to do, you know, a prediction for 2020. And, you know, I'm like, I don't do predictions, okay? But I will connect with spirit, and I shared some information with them. And as I say, January is explosive, but into March, as I said, intentional thought. Stick with intentional thought. That's a big thing. Like, focus on what you want. Focus on what you want for yourself, your world, and step away from ego. Mm-hmm. This is going to be aligned with what I call the God intention. It's acknowledging we're having to put things into balance, both dark and light. There is no right, there is no wrong. So when our head starts telling us, no, this is not going to work, and our heart's going, yes, do it. Have that conversation to bring the two of them into balance. So,
well, and it's been so out of balance.
I mean, absolutely.
That's why this is really necessary.
Yeah.
And I think that having your cards, I mean, it's such a great time to have such a tool to use.
Thank you.
You know, I think that so many people are in turmoil and confused, and especially if they're not, so many people are awakening right now, which is so beautiful. It's amazing to see so many people awakening and being open-minded. I actually was just on holiday. I flew home to go see my parents, and while I was there, I went and saw some very well-known teachers and healers that have been in the industry since the 60s. And I was shocked. My mom and I were planning to go. They live about an hour and a half away from my parents. And my mom and I were planning on going. And as we were getting ready to leave, my dad says, well, can I go?
Isn't that beautiful?
I was like, yes, you can. I was like, it's going to get weird as long as you're okay with that. And I couldn't believe it. I've had them on the show, Barry and Gayla Gordon. And it was fantastic because we were having these amazing conversations about near-death experiences and dowsing and feng shui and, you know, esoteric philosophies. And I had both my parents at the table, and, you know, they've always kind of put up with me. I've always been the weirdo in the weird family. And here we are sitting around the table having these, my mind was blown away. And I was like, this is what's happening right now, is that people are in their own ways waking up. And that's what cards like this is so great for, because what you can do is, you know, especially with a month like January coming up, people who say that they're not psychic or healers, they're going to feel things.
Yes.
And it can be really probably quite confusing and overwhelming. You may not know what to do with the energy. You may not understand it. And a lot
Right.
of us are going through these major awakenings, but having tools like these
Yes.
are
And
such a great way to manage
the
it.
guidebook actually has a wonderful, very in-depth spread in there. So if you're not sure and you have a really large question, or a question that is a little bit more in depth, then do the 5 vibrational dimensions of the soul spread, which is in there. And you can actually download that as a free download. If you have my deck or you don't have my deck, you could use this particular spread to get more in-depth questions and answers. So it allows you, it doesn't give you all the details just on the free download, but it does give you the ability to ask the questions in the way. And it also tells you about doing a smaller spread there, a 3-card spread, and you can create any other kind of spread that you want. So it's in depth as far as giving you the information in there, but without telling you you can't do it your way.
Well, and I
I
think
thought
that's
that
the
was so
important thing
important.
is that, I think a lot of cards that are out there, I think people who aren't, like us and we're healers and we play with these things all the
Right.
time. I think that this can be really intimidating for people, and
Yes.
they're sitting here and they're going, okay, what do I do? And we're so used to being told what to do and how to do it that without those instructions, we panic. And I think that, what I loved is that Debbie sent me the deck of cards with a note, and there was a typed up sheet and just said, play with them. And I loved that
Yes.
because you were giving me permission to like
Mhm.
throw all the instructions out of the
Absolutely.
water and
Yes.
just play with them. And I think that's such a great way to introduce yourself if you've never worked with cards, or maybe you have and you don't use them
Yeah.
often. Just shuffle them, get used to how they
Yeah.
feel, look through them. I mean, there's so many beautiful cards that are
Yeah.
in the deck. And then,
Maybe just pull one card and
one
connect with that
card,
card.
and maybe, one of my favorite questions is always give me reflection on what I need to know right now.
Yeah.
And you can pull that card,
I got go to the light. So stand there, open arms, invite it. And you've got driving forces. Yeah. Focus on it. What you want. Get on that road. Go there. Yeah. And
this is another favorite. Smell the roses.
Smell the roses. Absolutely. Because we don't. And sometimes we're just in that sort of focus that we're, so busy for things. I love this one as well. Pleasure dome. She said,
Yes.
getting the balance. Sometimes we just don't. It's like, oh, I got to do this. I got to get there. I got to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, one of my, probably one of my favorite cards is when people get this as openness. It's there. I always say you're there. Okay. You're carrying the cage with you because you're not sure. And you can jump back in it for safety and security if you want to, but it's open, and now you're free to do what you want.
Oh, that
and
is
I
a
just
great
love that
card.
one because it's just one of those. It's like, okay, I need the security, I need the safety, but that door's not locked anymore. It's open just for you to do what you want. And yeah, there's just so many great ways to play with it. What card did you get? Because when I autograph and send an extra card, it's always chosen by spirit. It's never chosen by me. Quiet times. So obviously that was.
And I've been getting this not only in this card deck, but I have an old deck here on my desk here, and every morning I pick one, and I probably already put them away. But the card that I got, oh, here it is, retreat.
Quiet times, absolutely.
And I have another deck, and I got the same thing. It was meditation. And I was like, okay, I get it.
Okay, that's it. That's what I'm saying, that sometimes we're giving it once, we're giving it twice, and we're giving it 3 times. And if after 3 times we're not getting that message, whether it's through cards, messages, spirit is sending us, they go, okay, you're on your own. When you're ready, come back. We're here.
Well, and this is, you were saying before the show how you love to be, or during the show, you were talking about how when you were convalescing, how you don't do well sitting still.
Yes.
And that's my biggest issue, is that I don't, I fidget. I can't
Yeah.
sit still, and I've got to constantly be doing things. And so this is like one of the hardest things for me to do. And even though I live alone, you know, I'm puttering. So I
Yeah.
always think like, oh, well, I mean, I'm puttering. So I'm like, I'm in the groove. I'm
Yeah.
aligned, and they really want me to sit still. They really want me to sit down. And I'm like, but I can't.
Yeah. I always say to people at that point, if you can't, then go for a walk somewhere in nature.
That's what
Connect
I
with
do a
Mother
lot.
Nature, or go and lay on the grass. You know, obviously there are some areas in North America where you don't want to go outside at the moment. We've had rain and we've had a bit of snow here and all those kind of things. But when I get to Mexico in 2 or 3 weeks time, I'm going to be laying there in the sunshine. I'm going to let the rays hit me, and I'm going to connect with Mother Earth. So, you know, do what you need to do to create your quiet times. And maybe your quiet times is reading a book or watching a movie or just sitting and enjoying time with friends, you know.
I
So
think that too, for me, I always feel like I have to be busy and productive and producing and
oh yes.
making, and so I think what my intuition is telling me is that it's okay to just sit and stare at a movie. It's
Yes.
okay to just sit and stare at a book, and not a. The other thing is I'm really bad. I read tons of books, but they're all about
Lovely.
productivity and business and learning something, and like I'm even busy when I'm reading. So I feel like a big part of it is, okay, the engines need to shut down.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it's like go on to slow, just in the Zen, take the time, focus, be. So, and of course, you know, for some people, you say that to them, they go, no, 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 I don't want
Yeah.
to do that. I go, step into it for a day or so and see how it feels. You don't
Yeah.
have to stay there. You don't have to reside there, but maybe that's what your body's telling you you need at the moment. Or you're going to end up like me with Guido and the boys being sent in, the box coming down and hitting me on the back of the head, then the car accident, the rear ender. Maybe that's what you're going to get. And I did not like to be there. If I'd listened beforehand.
Right. Well, and I think too, I think that, you know, I think a lot of people are that way, that, you know, and here I have this show and I'm constantly talking about how, you know, our culture is all about, we have to be busy in order to be productive. And I'm always telling everybody they have to cultivate their chi and, you know, slow down. And in a lot of ways, I do feel like I've slowed down, but the other thing is that I'm intent. I'm focusing so much on the things that I want, that I feel like spirit is like, okay, if you want those things to come in, you need to stop.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
sometimes we get into the intensity. I had something happen last year and I was so devastated at the time. I shook my fist up to spirit. I had been working on some new ideas and formulations of way to go. And I was getting all this information from spirit. And over several months, I'd been formulating it, putting it into a file. Well, being lazy I didn't want to go hunting in my laptop for it. I put it in downloads because there wasn't much in downloads. And somehow there was this huge update with Microsoft and it all went missing. And we have never found it to this day. So, of course, I went into this. Well, why would you let me spend all this time creating this over months and then take it away from me? That was my what? And then afterwards, as time went on, I thought, well, okay, maybe there's some things here. Like, why did I leave it in downloads? That's a very iffy place to leave it. Maybe I create a file which is called in process or something like that and put that somewhere where I can find it very easily. Maybe the information in there was relevant at the time, but now things have changed up. So they want me to go in a different direction. But of course, in that humanness, I like,
yeah.
why? Which we do. And that's, you know, what is it? You know, prick me, I'm human kind of thing. And I bleed. But, you know, there was a reason behind it. But at the time, I was so angry that spirit would do this to me. You want me to do this work? You give me all this information and now you delete it? Come on. So maybe the information wasn't the right information, or maybe that information was for me at that particular time and not meant for anybody else.
Or maybe the world wasn't ready for it at that time and there's better stuff coming.
Absolutely. And from it has. So that's the way I look at it, that, we can, I always say to people, we can be in the law of the garbage truck where we can carry that around with us all day, every day, keep loading stuff in the back there that's not going to actually help us. It's just going to self-flagellate us, as I put it. We're just going to keep ourselves up on it. Whereas if we let it go, okay, yes, I went for several days of like why and trying to resource different people that it must be out there. We must be able to find it somewhere. And then I just got, let it go. And I'm like, but why? So
And
again,
that may not be revealed to
humanness.
you at this time. That's the thing.
Absolutely. And I conclude with spirit that I trust with them on things like that. Many, many years ago, when I was in corporate world, I was going for a job interview, and it was down to myself and one other person. And when we come out of an interview and like, I've nailed it, it's mine. It's just a matter of getting the letter. And of course, in those days, it was a letter. There was no internet. And then I got the Dear John letter, and I was like devastated, like, why didn't I get this? What was the reasoning behind it? What did I do wrong? We do all this self-flagellation. Well, a couple of years went by, and somebody moved in next door to me, and she had heard that I do readings, and she said, I need to come to you for a reading. I said, sure, okay, come along, and I'll do the reading for you. Well, what came up in that reading was this environment that she was working in was so toxic. It was harming her health and everything, and she needed to get out of it really quickly. And then after the reading, she sat there and she told me, and I just looked at her and oh my gosh, you took my job, thank you. Now, you don't always get that opportunity, but I think it was spirit giving me the chance to go, you know what, when it doesn't happen or it doesn't work out, trust us here. There's a reason. Because I actually went on to get a really great job, which in hindsight was much better. But at that time, as we do, when that relationship goes to the wall, or we lose the job, or whatever it is, we go into grief. And that is a normal thing, but don't stay in grief, okay? Move on from
Garth
it.
Brooks has a great song called Sometimes God's Greatest Answer is an Unanswered Prayer.
Correct, absolutely.
So that's kind of what that is we don't understand it, but they understand the bigger picture, and they understand what this is all about.
Yeah. And, I'm glad I didn't get that job now, but at the time, I was devastated. I went into all those human emotions that we do. So let yourself go through that grief, but don't stay there. Move on. Set yourself up for something more positive. And at the moment, the other thing I just want to share with people is step away from negative Nellies.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to help you or boost you. All it's going to do is pull you down. And, we want to help other people, but if we're not helping ourselves and stepping into that vibrational frequency of joy and bliss and things that we want, then step away from them. And I know some people say to me, yeah, but it's my family, or it's where I work, or things like, well, where you work, yeah, change it. Family, yes, you don't have to get connected in to that all the time. You can do like I do, move millions of miles away across the other side of the world. No, I'm kidding. But you can, what I always say is control that. You don't have to be in it 24/7. And, if you've got friends or people around you that are constantly either negative about things that are going on in their life or onto yours, then again, you don't have to put up with that. I always say to myself, I deserve better. And when I
think that's a mantra everybody should have.
Yeah, I deserve better. I am worth more. I am worth something. And that was the set of cards that I created, which was the I am affirmation, so that we get into that I am side of things, so that we don't accept, this is the deck here, and it talks about the vibrationalness of each person. And I always call the affirmation cards what I call the instant gratification. You just pull one card and you go, kind of thing. It sets you on your focus, so you don't have to read a book, go into it, and you were just having a mantra for the day, as it were. And I wanted people to get into that I am concept, because if we don't look after ourselves, we're here for ourselves on this journey. Yes, we're here to help everybody else, but if we're not helping ourselves first, then we're not going to be able to help anybody else. And we need to be in a place where we feel our own appreciation for ourselves, which is what that particular deck was created for.
Well, and really being able to operate from a full cup. You have to be able to do that in order to give.
Yes.
Well, I think this is great, Debbie. I'm so glad that you took the time to talk with me today and share with us your deck. Again, it's called Vibrational Energy Oracle Cards, and it's by Debbie Anderson. She's got other decks as well, but this one was the one that we were playing with today. And I think that one of the main reasons that I really wanted to have Debbie on was just what's going on in our world today. Things are chaotic and challenging, and it seems like things are moving at a much more pace. That things are moving faster, and things are happening a lot quicker in people's lives. And it's happening for a reason. But, if you're in turmoil and you're confused or you're not sure how to navigate it, having something like these tools is a great way to, get some answers that you may need. I think more for me, what they really do is just give me confidence. It's just a great way to be like, okay, I can deal with this today. If they are interested in learning more about you or purchasing the deck, where do they go? How can they find you?
Well, one thing I can say really quickly is both the vibrational energy and the vibrational earth children decks are available as a download, a mobile app. So if somebody doesn't want to go to all the trouble of getting the whole deck in card format like we have, they can download it to their phone. Now, all of that, as well as purchasing the decks, go to my website, which is vibrational-energy.com. On the landing page, it says start here, and it literally is. It gives you how to get the decks. If you scroll down on that landing page, it'll show you how to find podcasts like this one, go to my weekly readings, download the mobile apps, sign up for my newsletter, and then you can find all the different things on there. It shows the decks and everything, and you just click on the button and it'll guide you to where you want to go. And I'm just so blessed because just recently my website has been upgraded so people can view it from a phone and it's not going all over the place when they're viewing it, which I was having difficulty with. And I thought, oh my goodness. And most of the time I use my laptop. I very rarely use the phone. But yeah, with these two decks, there is a free limited version of the mobile app that you can download. And so I invite you to go play with it. It won't cost you a bean, just to download it and the time to play with it. And it gives you, I think, 11 cards to play with for a limited amount of time to see whether you like the deck. So if you only play with it for a few weeks and it gives you the answers that you need, then great. And one of the things that I wanted to end with here is that when we ask a question and we're using cards or we're using some kind of tool to get an answer, all that's doing is giving us the confirmation, because I truly believe that we have made the decision within ourselves to start with. We're just waiting for that, the friend that says, yeah, you really shouldn't buy that dress. It doesn't look good on you. Or the friend that says, don't go and buy that. Don't go and do the hairdo. Just stick with what's there, So it's that, what I call the hidden, unsung hero of our lives, that we can just get the answer and the confirmation. So yeah, it is more of a confirmation because we've already got some idea in our head what we want this to turn out like.
Perfect. Thank you, Debbie, for saying yes to this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me on, Amanda. I've had so much fun.